The kitchen door opened, and Joey Baxter stepped into the house. Sweat dampened t-shirt clinging to his skin after an afternoon run. His wife Angie sat at the kitchen table frowning at her notebook screen. "What did you do now?" asked Joey, washing his hands. "It's not politics. I'm on next door, and this peeping Tom guy in the area is starting to really creep me out. You remember Janet, that sweet old lady with the corgi on the next block? She posted last night that she got up from watching TV because her dog was barking and saw someone standing in her backyard. Nearly gave her a heart attack." "Did she call the cops?" "It doesn't say." "Poor lady. Some real sickos out there." Angie got up and opened the freezer door. "You know that cookie exchange we went to a couple weeks ago and I made way too many ginger snaps?" She pulled a bag out and set it on the counter. "I'm going to put some on a plate and thaw. I want to send them with you to check on Janet. Let her know she can call on us if something like that happens again." "And you're volunteering me because..." "Because I have to get some sleep before my shift tonight. Thank you, sweetheart." "You're so welcome, sweetheart," he said with little enthusiasm. Several hours later, Joey was walking up the street, holding a covered plate of cookies. The neighborhood of quirky but well-maintained homes was quiet as usual for a Sunday afternoon. Joey finally reached Janet's front porch. He hopped up the 3 steps and stood in the front door. To his right, one of Janet's neighbors was watering shrubs, and the two exchanged smiles and nods. Joey tapped on the door, but noticed it was ajar, and stepped into the house. In the shadowy entryway, he was greeted by the buzzing of flies and a putrid odor, like meat left in the garbage way too long. He stopped at the first open door he came to and stared at the carnage before him. Janet lay sprawled out on the bed, dead eyes staring at the ceiling, clothes ripped, wounds on her face and arms, her body floating in a crimson pool. Lying on the other pillow was her lifeless, blood-covered corgi, a yellow tennis ball shoved in its mouth. Hearing the front door open and close, Angie got out of bed and walked to the top of the stairs as Joey came in. "So?" she asked. "Everything okay?" Joey looked up at her and smiled. "Yeah, she's doing fine. Just playing with that little dog of hers." Lugging a full laundry basket, Jessica stopped in the doorway of her daughter's room. 5-year-old Tess was engrossed in a familiar family dispute with her imaginary friend, Crystal. "You didn't pick up your room like I asked. There won't be any dessert if you don't mind me." Jessica smiled. She'd done her research and felt assured that Tessa's imaginary friend was nothing to be concerned about, and could even be helping her in her daughter's language development. "You'll make a good mommy someday," said Jessica. Tess rolled her eyes. "She never listens to me." "Believe me, I know the feeling," replied Jessica, heading off to her destination in the laundry room. That evening, she and her husband sat in bed reading. Jessica put down her Kindle. "Did you have an imaginary friend when you were Tessa's age?" Her husband took off his glasses. "As a matter of fact, I did. His name was Stevie." "Stevie," repeated Jessica with a broad grin. "Interesting. I didn't. At least, not that I remember. It's just kind of funny and a little weird to see Tess interacting so intensely with someone who wasn't there. She'll get through it. We all do." The next afternoon, Jessica was making the bed when she heard what sounded like sobbing down the hall. It was coming from Tessa's room. She found the girl sitting on her bed, red-faced, tears dropping from her chin. "What's wrong, baby?" asked Jessica. Crystal said that her mommy and daddy don't want her to have an imaginary friend, so she can't play anymore. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. It'll be all right. No, it won't. Jessica's phone rang, so she stepped out in the hallway. Hey, we're having a bit of a meltdown. Can I call you back later? Tapping her phone, Jessica was suddenly struck by the dead silence in the house. Something didn't feel right. She turned and walked back to Tessa's room, only to find it empty. Panic clutched her heart like an icy hand. Lying in a pile on the floor next to the bed were the clothes her daughter had been wearing only seconds ago. There was that odor again. Subtle, but noticeably foreign among the other smells in the house. Joy stepped out of the walk-in closet and lost the scent completely. It wasn't the first time she had experienced odd aromas coming from her husband's clothes. She was beginning to sense the worst. He was having an affair. Rob was a hospital administrator, and whenever Joy mentioned the smell in the past, he said he had been in the ER that day or a lab. But he always had a reasonable explanation. Funds were tight, and just recently, Rob had taken another part-time job 2 nights a week as an auditor. All of his time away from home made Joy more and more suspicious. Laundry day, and Joy was checking pockets when she found a piece of paper from one of Rob's shirt pockets. It read, 2644 Lambert Street Place, order with Paul. Her heart sank. He was going to prostitutes? Hurt and ashamed, Joy began to cry. But the tears soon turned to anger. She was a fighter, not a victim. She decided to find out exactly what Rob was up to. An hour later, Joy pulled up to the curb in front of the Lambert Street address. A nondescript ranch with an unkempt yard and barred windows. Joy clenched her jaw and walked to the front door. After several knocks, a wary Hispanic man answered the door. "Si?" "Are you Paul?" she asked. "Yes." Joy pulled out a photograph of Rob. "Does this man come here?" "I don't recognize him." "Look, I'm not from the police, I swear." Reluctantly, Paul finally answered yes. The anger churned inside of her like water coming to a boil. Rob had played her for a fool. She needed revenge. "Can I order a man? A beautiful, handsome young man?" "Really? Are you serious?" "I'm very serious, and I can pay." "Come back tomorrow night." And with that, Paul shut the door. Joy told Rob she was meeting an old college friend that evening and left just after dusk for her rendezvous, courtesy of Paul. The Lambert Street house was dark when she pulled up, but the porch light popped on after several knocks. Paul let her in. She couldn't see well, and there was a buzzing of flies, but the odor was familiar. "This way," said Paul, guiding Joy by the arm. He brought her into a room and flipped on a dim light. Joy screamed. "What's wrong?" asked Paul. In the center of the room was a closed casket on sawhorses. "What the hell is going on here?" asked Joy. "Why is that here?" "You ordered a man. I brought you a man. Let me show you." "No!" screamed Joy. "Are you insane?" Paul took Joy by the elbow and brought her to the living room. He pointed out the window to a business across the street. "Your husband orders women. I bring him women from there." The blood froze in Joy's veins as she read the bright neon sign in front of the building. McCormick's Mortuary. Desert heat wrested moisture and energy from the bodies of the two hikers, trudging slowly up a sagebrush-dotted hill. They stopped at the summit, shading their eyes as they scanned the rocky cliffs rising up around them. Jasmine pointed toward a quarter-size hole at the base of a stone wall. There, I think that's it. Think? Come on. Her companion Beth nodded and fell in behind Jasmine on her new course. 20 minutes later, the two women, sweating and covered in brown desert dust, stood in the mountain's shade in front of a large cave opening. They inhaled the cool subterranean air and drank water from their canteens. "How did I let you talk me into this?" asked Beth. "You invited yourself, remember?" "No, I don't. I'm suffering from heat stroke." "Why couldn't you have a regular hobby like gardening or sewing?" asked Beth, pouring water over her head. "Girl stuff, you know me better than that. A long time ago, someone put a hell of a lot of effort into digging this hole out here in the middle of nowhere." "Why?" "That interests me, and you could use the exercise." "Huh, you're a masochist and a sadist." "I'm just gonna go anyways and check things out," said Jasmine, pulling a flashlight out of her backpack. "I'll be right here. Blistering." Jasmine smiled and entered the cave, swinging her light around in the darkness as she slowly advanced. A small rivulet of water ran along the cave floor, and Jasmine's light swept the ground searching for potential ankle-spraining obstacles. The air was close and musty, but nothing she hadn't encountered in the past explorations. And she pushed forward past a rusted chain hanging from the ceiling and rotted timbers protruding from the walls. The darkness was calming, comforting, and a million miles away from her complicated life. "Ben told me everything." Jasmine jumped as if she'd touched a live wire. She swiveled around and her flashlight beam landed on Beth's stony face only inches away. "What are you?" "You slept with my husband for months, you bitch. We worked on projects together, drank coffee in the break room together, traded recipes while you..." "Beth, please. What can I say to you? I'm so sorry." "I am too." A scream echoed through the cave as Jasmine suddenly experienced intense pain in her stomach. A second stab followed, and she dropped her flashlight. Dull, violent thuds and Jasmine's weakening groans filled the black chamber with a horror movie soundtrack. A small dust devil danced by the entrance to the cave. After several moments of desert quiet, Beth emerged from the darkness holding 2 long needles and wiping them with a rag. "Knitting," she said to herself. "Now that's a great hobby."